Late summer and autumn in Poland seem to be the season of protests. Not only anti-lockdown protests, but also those against the imposition of stringent new anti-abortion laws. Whatever one's views on either controversy, it seemed to me that there might be a hidden agenda, with the Polish government using a period of uncertainty and instability to push through their reactionary policies, turning back the clock on Poland's recent European past. It had previously run into trouble with the EU in 2017 on account of its interference with the independence of the judiciary. Judges were being pressured to comply with government policy, a form of corruption which was tying their hands to freely interpret what is a comparatively young constitution. Was the Polish government now using this crisis to further consolidate its hold? So it was I found myself travelling up to Gdynia on the Baltic coast to meet with Maya Gideon. I was not so interested in finding out what was being reported through the poorly refracted prism of the Polish press, but what was happening on the ground on a daily basis from the point of view of a lawyer who was regularly appearing in the courts and coming up against contradictions in the coronavirus rules. In the courts, there seems to be a confusion about what the law says in Poland about these various issues. Masks, parties, whether you can buy alcohol to take away, and whether restaurants have to wear masks and whether they can actually have people eat outside, for example, on the pavement. So perhaps you could clarify what the state of the law is in respect of those issues, with a view to your own personal experience in the courts.
According to Polish law, on the first point is that you have a constitution. Then the second point you have the acts of law, let's say law, and then the third point is ordinances. In Poland, each situation which deprives the citizens from their rights should be legalized, should be written at the level of the law. And this is the biggest problem in Poland, because all those, let's say, deprivation of those rights are made on the lower level. It means
during the coronavirus controversy.
Yeah, since
they're all made on the third.
All of them.
Not even the second.
Not even on the second. Yeah, exactly. Because if it was made at least at the second level, then it would be possible to punish people for that they don't apply those rules. Yeah, but in Poland it has never been done, and actually it was made 2 weeks ago that our parliament started including those proceedings, but still they are not valid. They were never published until this day, and despite of the fact that people know about this, they are so much afraid that they close their business, that they stopped gathering, that they cover their faces, that they don't behave normally as they actually could, according to our law.
So if if a Polish person is not wearing a mask in public or in a shop, because these 0.3 rules say you mustn't wear a mask even in public right now, what are the consequences likely to be?
So the consequences is like that you can get your fine of up to 500 PLN for that. But actually nowadays, all majority of the policemen knows that it's illegal, so they try only to talk to the people. And if you meet the police on the street and they ask you why don't you wear the mask, and then you try to explain them that you know your rights and you know that this rule is illegal, they have two options. They can give you the fine, and then you can refuse this fine, and they can decide what to do with that. Or they can say, okay, so let's finish the case,
Yeah.
or they can send the case to the court.
Yeah.
And then, and at the level of the court can decide what to do with this, because the court is entitled to explain if the rule which oblige us to, so-called oblige us to wear the mask, is legal or not. And it happens all over in Poland, in the majority of the courts, that they just annulate all the fines.
Really? They
Of
cancel
course.
the fines?
Of course,
And
of
you've
course.
been in court having fines cancelled?
I even didn't have to go to the court, because at the level of when you have contact with the police officers, and if you represent your clients, then they know about this and they don't send those cases to the courts. But we have plenty of judgments, and they are official, they are all over internet, everybody can get access to them, that it's written, and it's so many judgments, as I said, in many courts in Poland, that in which, the courts just explain this, that it's illegal. And up to now, there is no legal obligation to cover your faces.
What about a business owner? They've been particularly badly hit by these 0.3 rules in the last month.
Yes.
If I'm a restaurant owner, can I open for business and have people come into my restaurant and sit down, and I can serve them dinner at the table?
In my opinion, absolutely yes.
Has there been any cases that have come to the court?
Okay. Still not, because but there is I got at least 5 calls per week how to do this. There are so many businessmen who want to do this. They are just working over this, but the problem is that they know that they will not win in the court, because our government nowadays controls Constitutional Tribunal in Poland, and they would like to force this Constitutional Tribunal to issue the special judgment which will block our businessmen in Poland to get money from the government for that reason that they were closed.
So the government is therefore trying to change the 0.1 constitution. Would that be correct?
The government wants to change constitution in Poland without changing the constitution actually. They are doing this by the law. Actually, they did this. They imposed on people and they changed their mentality. They made people so afraid by the press conference. It's enough in Poland that then you just issue press conference on TV, and that you make people afraid by this media, that they close their businesses. That's why we had, for example, the cases when the gyms and for example, this Calypso or some others, they were trying to make themselves as churches, that wanted to change their legal status to be open, to be able to, for example, to work, or they are trying to do some things to organize some special, let's say, category of sports events or something, to be able to be open. So people started thinking. We in Poland, actually, I hope that we are still, but we were always very smart, and this is what I think it will help us, because Poland has a great let's say tradition of breaking the law, because we were always under the invasion of Russia or Germany. So we were always if you wanted to survive, we needed always, to fight against our enemies. So it means we were always, we always tried to fight against the law which were imposed over us.
Yeah.
So now people started thinking
Creatively.
Exactly. So exactly. And actually, I am very proud of some of those people, because they see what's going on, because it's more than 6 months and they just started opening their eyes, and there is more and more people who understand that these all restrictions, they take us to nowhere, because
Yeah, so actually the law is probably the Constitution certainly, and the point to laws of Parliament are not really in place to prosecute a business owner who opens for business. But the problem is they don't want to bring a case, because then the government might respond by tightening up the Constitution and making laws. They don't want to give the government opportunity to make it concrete, so they'd rather operate in a grey area and be creative.
I think so, because at this moment, if some client would come to me and ask me, okay, can we go to the court? I would answer, yes, we can go to the court, but I cannot give you the guarantee that we can win this case. On the contrary, it's if the Constitutional Tribunal will issue the judgment, which of course also will be, in my opinion, illegal, but still, then we really need to that our case will be handled by a very brave judge, who will be able to say not only that those rules, the so-called COVID rules, were illegal, but also that the judgment of Constitutional Tribunal was illegal. And it's very complicated.
So your Constitutional Tribunal is the highest court in the land?
It's the tribunal which actually is the one institution in Poland which is entitled to say if the acts of law are prepared well enough to be said that they are legal, because the Constitutional Tribunal just controls if all the acts of the law are
in accordance with the Constitution.
Exactly, accordance in the Constitution.
So they interpret the Constitution.
Exactly.
And am I right in thinking, perhaps you'd say a little bit more about this, that there's a bit of a history here, because the current government, against the will of the EU, that were in trouble with the EU about this, have made their own judicial appointments, and you would say that that process itself is anti-constitutional. Would you like to say something about the bigger issue?
Actually, I can say one thing. I don't know what's going on in our government. I don't understand what they are doing, because I don't have access to the information. But one thing is sure, they want to show that we are independent. I mean that we don't need to follow the rules which are imposed, which we agree to follow, actually by European Union. Yeah. So this is their model of functioning. It was always like that with this party, with PiS, yeah, with the main party in our government. And it's true that in Poland actually we have a crisis concerning this the freedom of judges. I mean, since years there are the judges in Poland who are oppressed, and since 3 years there are many cases that the judges who acts against the government, they need to face a lot of troubles in Poland. And we know about this, and everybody who lives here knows about this. But this is, I think, completely another issue, another topic.
But it's similar though, because if you want a successful career as a judge in Poland, you have to comply with what the government wants. You have to comply with the government.
You need to be very brave, because you need to know that if you do something which will be against the government, then it you can face problems and troubles. Yeah,
And it will affect your career, presumably.
of course.
as a judge.
It can, of course, it can, and it happens. We have, for example, Igor Tuleya, a very famous judge in Poland. I think tomorrow he has a case issue in our highest tribunal in Warsaw. And we have plenty of judges like this, like Judge Juszczyszyn from Olsztyn, who also said in one of the judgments that that actually what the government does, it's against the law, and because of these things, more than 6 months he's not able to work. Yeah, he is
So that's
just
a real-life
suspended.
example.
Yeah, this is.
Okay. Social distancing. What are the rules in Poland about the number of people who are allowed to gather together? And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your own experience here on this beach on the Baltic.
Social distance is imposed on the people who are ill, or on the people who are supposed to be ill, because all the restrictions are imposed only on those people, ill people or people who are supposed to be ill. So if we are talking, it's from legal point of view, of course, yes? It's not from the TV conference point of view, but from the legal point of view. So if you want me to say about social distance, then of course I can say about this, but what is the point of that if we are talking about people who are not ill?
But if you have a party on a beach, are you going to be arrested and put in prison?
Of course not.
What will happen to you?
If it's according to the law, you are a free person and you can organize the party in the public place. If you don't harm anybody, if you don't commit the crime, if you don't destroy the things around you, and etc., you can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't having. I get the impression that people aren't meeting in homes and having parties like they often do. Because right now, with all the restaurants and the clubs closed, are you allowed to have a? Have you had a house party recently?
Do I have?
Have you had a house party recently?
Of course, I do have house party. Yes, of course. Yeah,
Don't
and
worry,
I will plan them
if
a lot.
If you don't want to appear,
And I invite all the policemen from all over, Gdynia.
have
I
you
would
had
love.
policemen join your
I
house
would
parties?
love that they will join me at my home, at my party.
Constitutional lecture.
But you had a party on the beach here. Well, you
Yeah.
have one every Saturday, and the policeman joined you apparently.
Yeah, apparently it was like this that we organized a dinner on the beach here recently in Gdynia. It was 2 times. And we just rented the table from the restaurant, which is close here. And it was about 40 people. We had the music, the food, which we of course took, we ordered at the restaurant who rent us the tables and the chairs. And we were sitting here and just about 2 or 3 hours having music, everything. And yeah, there was police. They just came.
You got some gate crashers.
Yeah.
unexpected guests.
Yeah, it was like that they were waiting for us and observing us. Yeah, so we just talked to them and they talked to us and they said, okay, let's do like this, please. Just watch out with your transparent, because if the transparent, yeah, those protest
The massive posters.
massive posters, yeah,
Don't put any posters
Yeah.
up
because if our chief will see this, then we need to react.
because you're a protest.
Yeah, because there will be some kind of protest. So
Okay.
please, if you just do what you want, we don't want any troubles here. We will be there observing you and just please. And it was like that, and they were observing us like 2 or 3 hours. We approached them with the cakes and with everything, and one of them even approached us and were talking with one of the doctor who was attended our dinner.
Yep.
And he was listening, to all the COVID issues and about vaccine and everything and so on. And it was absolutely, normal, nice, and the most important was that they were normal. They didn't attack us, they didn't have, anything against us. They even said that, we understand you and what are you doing here?
What do you think the police think of this situation and the laws?
It's the police is like you and me, yeah. So it depends what they think generally about this issue. I'm sure that there is plenty of policemen who knows that all this situation is exaggerated, but they need to follow the orders. Yes, but at the same time, they have some models, they can do something that they follow their orders, but at the same time they will not do as they are obliged to do. Yeah, and it's up to each person. Yeah, if we meet normal people who are thinking, who are open-minded, yeah, then we really don't have any troubles here.
It seemed to me that there was some sympathy for the current situation, even amongst the police. My curiosity had been aroused and I felt compelled to return to Gdynia the very next Sunday to attend one of Maya Gideon's lunches.
Well, here I am, folks, on a Sunday afternoon in Gdynia, on the beach, on the lovely beach here, and I've been joining a party. This is a lady, a lawyer who works in Gdynia, and she was sitting having a drink with a friend about a month ago on the beach here. The hairdresser friend actually has, suffered because of the lockdown here, and they were just saying to themselves over a glass of wine, look, we've got to do something. And it's quite inspiring that they actually then took action, and in the space of a few weeks they've been running these lunches on a Sunday afternoon, and they've been playing music, and they've enlisted the services of a local restaurant, laying out tables, preparing food, and basically getting a gathering together of people who are upset about what's taking place and how small businesses are being impacted. The coppers, the polizia, have turned up at this stage of proceedings, and I'm not quite sure. They seem to have got their notebooks out, and they seem to be, I don't know whether they're taking people's details and looking at people's identity cards. Would it be interesting to see whether or not anything happens, anything comes of this, or whether or not any legal offences have actually been committed. And certainly one of the purposes of me actually producing these kind of like lockdown law type series of videos is to help people who've really just kind of had enough of being locked out, had enough of governments stealing from them a proper parliamentary process of debate for kind of like over 6 months, and having governments, in the case of the Polish government, make diktats, make ordinances, make rules that haven't been through their parliaments, that haven't got the proper seal, the proper legislative seal, the legislative sanction. Maya Gideon spends a lot of time in court, gets at least 5 calls a week around these issues. Invariably the judges cancel the fines because of the fact that they're not constitutional, they've not gone through proper legislative process, they aren't laws, they're kind of a little bit autocratic government decrees that are made on the hoof, with only the government making the decisions and them not having the sanction of the parliament. Here's the lawyer.
Hello.
And I've just been talking on the beach about the police came this afternoon to say hello.
Yeah.
And Maya here had a little conversation with them. Did they arrest you, and are you going to prison, Maya?
Not yet, maybe tomorrow.
What charms did you use? How did you convince them?
So it was, there were about 15 police guys, let's say, and they came here, and the first words that they said, we don't want to have any problems here. Okay, so please, what can we do to don't have any problem here? And I served them some, we served them some good food, asked them, that to not make people stressful about the situation. And they just told us, please switch off your mobile phones, don't record the movies with us, because we are afraid that you publish this. We want to talk with you sincerely, with no movie, with no...
They didn't like cameras?
Yes.
And were they police from Gdynia?
From Gdańsk.
And why were they from Gdańsk?
They told me that the majority of the policemen from Gdynia is on quarantine, and this is also just normal situation, it's up to the division.
Yeah.
If you have the police guys who are ready, then you send them. But they were wonderful, they were very nice.
I noticed you gave them a speech, and you took the microphone and thanked the police for protecting us.
So tell me, what? I'm a lawyer. What is the legal position? Could they have fined you? Could they have arrested you? Or what's the situation? You're not wearing a mask.
Theoretically, they could give me a fine for this that I don't wear a mask, and for that reason that I'm still with the people who, and because according to our illegal law, actually, it's forbidden to gather in more than 5 people, and we are here about 20-30 people. So they could, if they just wanted, they could give me the fine. They could tell me, just punish me for that.
And so why didn't they give you a fine?
So to the officers who gave them the orders, that they reacted, that they came here, that they checked the situation, that everything is fine, because they are coming here and what? They need to come back with some information. Yes.
I was fascinated to hear that the judiciary itself was attempting to educate the young about the law and the current situation, and were finding creative ways of doing so. Okay, Mayor, you've actually had an experience in court in which you were not allowed into court, as I understand it, because you weren't wearing a mask. Can you tell us the story of you and the court officers and the mask issue?
Presented my client here, and I wanted to get into the court, of course, with my face seamed. So I didn't cover, because I don't wear the masks.
Your face seamed?
I mean that my face will be seamed for the people, because when I have the mask, my face is not seamed.
Okay.
So, and I don't wear the masks, because I don't see the point to do this. Okay, so I wanted to get to the court, and when I wanted to do this, there were 3, let's say, court officers, and they told me that I will not enter the court because I didn't cover my face, and that I need to cover my face with the mask. Then I said that no, I will not do this, because there is no such a legal rule in Polish law that is able to oblige me to wear this mask. So they told me that they will call the director of the court, and let's see what will happen. And they called, and the director of the court said, let's do like this. The judge, which has the court with this attorney, will decide if she can get in or not.
Okay.
And then I said, so let's wait for the decision of my judge, in this case. And after 10 minutes, I saw that the beautiful lady who was approaching to those 3 guys, and there were also police officers also. I was also trying to asking him about this, to explain the people the rules of law and so on, but he didn't want to approach me. And this lady approached them and whispered something to their ears, and there was something like, a pause, a little bit shock, and they approached to me and they said, please get in. And I said, thank you very much. And they asked me, it's possible to measure your temperature. I said, have no problem, if you need to, of course. And they said, and then I was waiting in front of the room in the court for our case. And when the door was opened, I saw that there is the audience in the room, and of course my judge and the clients and everybody. And there were about 10 people, I think. And the judge welcomed me with such words: welcome our activist of social events, something like that. And I said, hello, good morning. And the judge asked me, please, Mrs. Gideon, can you explain everybody in this room why you didn't want to wear your mask on your face? And I thought, wow, why she is asking me about that? And then I get it. She wanted me that I will explain to the people who are gathered there why and what is the law. And I started explaining this, and I said that according to the Polish law, we are not obliged, only people who are ill or supposed to be ill, they are obliged to wear the mask, and I am completely healthy, and I don't have to wear the mask, and this is my right.
Ah.
And she told me something like this. It was, of course, in public. She told me, I absolutely agree with you. That's why, to me, because it was a criminal case, so she also handles the criminal cases of the people who don't wear the mask in Poland. So she told me, so that's why if there are some issues regarding those topics, and I handle these issues, I annulate them fines, which were
annul
yeah,
fines.
Which were made imposed on the people. Yeah.
How interesting. So she was looking to you
She was looking at me, but
as an instrument to tell everybody what the legal position was, so people knew what the law was.
yes,
I see.
and she didn't. And it wasn't over. And then she said she explained this. So it means that she informed all the audience, and the audience was the people who were, or the students, or the some fresh lawyers who
Junior
were
lawyers.
exactly junior
Yeah,
lawyers.
yeah.
So like she wanted to explain them what's going on, and she used me at this moment.
How beautiful.
It was beautiful, but
And
it wasn't
creative.
over. Yeah, but it wasn't over, because after she asked me about something like this. She said, "Okay, we understand the law, but can you do this for us? That you protect us and you wear your mask on."
Mm.
And then I understood that, okay, she knows the law, but she has different opinion.
Yeah.
She understood that she can only ask me
Yeah.
to wear the
Yeah,
mask,
yeah.
And she told me, if you don't have a mask, we can bring you the mask.
Yeah.
And I know that there is no point to quarrel with her, because she already did a lot.
Yeah.
So I said, of course, if you ask me about this,
Politely.
of course I can do this for
Respect
you.
your court.
Exactly, and this is it was the case, and I wear my mask, of course, something like here on the not
the
so
chin.
not so full, it wasn't, but still, and after it was the case took about 3 hours, so at the end I was my mask here, on the neck almost, yes, and she didn't say anything, but still the way that she did this, she somehow wanted to show us that we can cope with this. The law is like the law is, but okay, let's protect ourselves, or there are some people who can feel it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's,
What can I say? I think that that's, the most important is to be together. It's not a question to fight for the part of your freedom. It's the question to protect whole of your freedom, because you cannot you cannot just decide that or protect.
you can't slice freedom like a pizza.
Exactly, it's not a salami, or something like that. Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's the most important thing, actually. If I think also that it's in this moment that it happened. Is this moment that the judgment of the Constitutional Tribunal was public at this moment. It was planned, actually, because they could wait with this judgment even one more year. They did this at this moment when they needed to do this. So it's very important to know and to understand that sometimes we can be just easily manipulated.
Yeah, we mustn't allow politics to influence, to undermine the law. The rule of law and individual liberties is fundamental.
Of course, this is the most important. We cannot destroy this what we built for the hundreds of years. Yeah, now it's just destroying. Like there is one second, and what we done, what our families, what our built and everything, the tradition, it's completely devastated now. We need to open our eyes. We need to see that if we don't react now, tomorrow it can be too late.
The foundation stones are being removed, and if we're not careful, the house will collapse.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Mayor Gideon. It's been a very insightful interview. And we look forward to interviewing you again in the future, I hope, and coming for dinner on the beach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex, you are always welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My adventures in Gdynia encouraged me in the belief that there was some good common sense out there amongst the Polish population, including policemen, and that there were regular folk who just wanted to get on with their lives and would not be so easily intimidated by the climate of fear promulgated by government. Most of all, they were trying to do it in an inclusive way, bringing people together and gently encouraging them out from behind the dark clouds of misinformation. Personally, the problem I had as a lawyer was not so much with the government policies themselves, in relation to either the coronavirus crisis or anti-abortion, but with the way in which they were striking at the foundation stones of the legal system and constitution in order to get these policies through. Was this Polish government, who had been brought into power by a largely elderly voting base, robbing the young of their future? But at least there were those who seemed gracefully determined to see us through the troubled times, their sights set on a brighter future.